and now I'm joined in our Lund studio by Peter Nählstedt, CEO of SenzaGen. Welcome, Peter, and please go ahead with the presentation.
Thank you very much, and welcome from my side as well to my presentation about SenzaGen. So, my name is Peter Nählstedt. I joined as CEO of SenzaGen 1.5 months ago. I have a broad commercial and leadership experience in the life science sector. I've worked with both organic growth projects, establishing sales in new territories, working with channels and so on, but also with acquisition-driven growth, where I have worked on several large and small and acquisition projects, including both finding targets and performing them and integrating them. I have served as CEO of Probi, also a publicly traded company. Between 2014 and 2018, we had growth from 100 million Swedish kronor up to 600 million. And previously I worked in larger groups like GE Healthcare Life Sciences and also in Trelleborg Marine Systems. I've worked here in Sweden. I've always worked in international positions, I should say. I also spent 4 years in US. I joined SenzaGen already in 2018, but as a board director. And I've worked in operational roles in SenzaGen, primarily with a commercial development and strategic development. My educational background, I have a master's in chemical engineering and a degree in business administration. So, what is SenzaGen about then? So SenzaGen has a vision to replace animal testing with leading in vitro technology, thereby establishing new industry standards and becoming a leader in the industry. And we will do that with leading technology. So we have already deployed leading technology by developing the GARD platform. The GARD platform combines cell biology, genomics, and machine learning. And we have two different tests, one for measuring skin allergens or identifying skin allergens, and one for identifying respiratory allergens. These tests have very high performance and very high human relevance and high reproducibility and applicability, meaning that they can be used for many different types of substances. We have complemented our strategy and also have other in vitro toxicology testing services like skin irritation and corrosion. We have started our commercial development with SenzaGen. We are focusing on 3 main markets, so Europe, North America, and parts of Asia. We deploy a direct sales strategy where we're working directly with a number of customers, but we have also engaged a number of distributors, and I'll come back to our sales model in a second. What is new is that we also have an active acquisition strategy that we're implementing now. And the market that we're operating on is growing, and it's growing because of several factors. One is regulatory. It is, we have animal testing ban in Europe for cosmetics, for instance. We have similar bans in place in a number of states in US. There is an ethical concern and an active social responsibility work in corporate world, which is also aiming to reduce animal trials. And there is, of course, a performance-related component of this. The world needs better tests with better human predictability. So I'll go into our growth strategy, because we have worked a lot with our strategy to devise something which will make us grow even faster. And we already had an organic growth strategy. Our organic growth is about establishing the GARD platform with direct and distributor sales, and also a select number of CROs, which I will get back to in a second. We complemented the organic growth with acquisitions and also by deploying new tests ourselves. And on the acquisition growth, we're looking for companies in our industry which can complement SenzaGen, either in terms of geography and reach, so in other words, reaching customers in areas where we have a hard time reaching in ourselves, or making our test portfolio broader. So having a broader portfolio that will enable us to target more customers and also satisfy their needs for other testing purposes. To develop our thoughts a little bit around our growth strategy, first of all, one important component of our organic growth is to achieve a OECD test guideline status of our platform GARD skin. And this validation exercise that we started a few years ago has now resulted in a very good opinion from the independent expert group of EU called ESAC or ESAC. And this opinion says that GARD skin meets the standards in terms of human predictability and also meets the standards of reproducibility. And they give a very firm recommendation that GARD skin should now become an OECD test guideline test. So this is a big achievement for the company. This news came in this summer. Once adopted as an OECD test guideline, it will expand our market for testing, because it will be easier for our customers to use results from the GARD platform in their regulatory processes. So, as you can see from this illustrative picture in the bottom, the market that we've been operating on up until now is for non-regulatory sensitization testing. And we are now expanding that, or have expanded that, by offering 2 complementary skin tox tests, one for irritation and one for corrosion. And with the OECD test guideline, we can reach a market of around $550 million, and thereby significantly expanding from our current or earlier position. To reach a larger part of the toxicology, in vitro toxicology market, we see that we can offer ourselves a number of OECD validated tests. So that's what we are doing next, and we have a number of new tests in the pipeline. Then the potential market of 6 billion is quite attractive, and I'll describe it in more detail in a second. And to address the full market, we do need a number of complementary tests, and that's where we can see that acquisition strategy will play a major role for us to address that part. So, as I said earlier, I would want to explain a little more about our business model and sales strategy. So first of all, for the GARD tests that we have developed ourselves, which are high performing and with broad applicability and reproducible, we have a direct sales approach. So we have developed and deployed our own sales force. They are working directly with some of the leading companies in the world in implementing the GARD test. We have in certain markets chosen to deploy distributors. We've done that in a number of European markets, but we've also done it in North America. Then we are also working with a select number of licensing partners, or CROs. These companies complement the SenzaGen lab capacity for GARD testing. And we have signed agreements with leading CRO companies, I should say. So that is our strategy for the GARD test. Now, when we have started to work directly with customers with GARD, we saw that they have a number of other testing needs. Associated with identifying skin allergens, you also need to do other toxicity testing. That's why and then the other learning we had is that we have very high standards in our lab. We have one of 2 GLP certified labs in the Nordic region. So we have an opportunity to fulfill customer needs with broader testing possibilities. That's what we've done now. We are offering 2 new tests, one for irritation and one for corrosion. And going forward, we will expand our test offering, and I'll get back to in a little bit what type of test offering that can be. Finally, we are working with acquisitions. So we have learned how this industry looks. We have seen how the landscape is establishing, and we see an opportunity for complementing SenzaGen with a number of acquisitions aimed at broadening the test portfolio and also improving our geographical scope. What is important with our acquisitions is that we have a requirement that the customers or the targets need to have reached profitability, and they need to be growing. So this strategy that we devised, it's possible to implement it thanks to a strong market position that we already established with GARD. So why do we have a strong position with GARD? Well, first of all, we have a portfolio now. So first of all, we have a GARD skin test. It is positioned as a very accurate, reproducible and broad applicable test. It's used in cosmetics, chemicals and pharmaceuticals. We've made an adaptation of GARD skin for medical devices so that it can be used with solvents and detect leachables from devices. We also have 2 risk assessment tools based on the GARD platform, GARD potency and GARD dose response. GARD potency is a qualitative determination of a weak or strong sensitizer. When we worked with customers, we did see a need for clients. They are discovering that, oh, I have an allergen. Then they would like to find out, well, what is the situation with this substance? What is the point of departure when this becomes a problem for me? Then you can measure different concentrations. That's what we are doing with GARD skin dose response, and we have high interest from several industries, including pharmaceutical, medical device, cosmetics and chemical industry for this test. It is also the only quantitative in vitro test available. Finally, we have the GARD air test. It is a unique way of identifying air sensitizers with an in vitro test. It has a very high specificity, so we have positioned the test as an opt-out tool during product development. In other words, if you identify an airway sensitizer with GARD air, you should not continue to develop that product. So a little bit of history is that the in vivo tests are not very human relevant. They reach around 70 to 75% human relevance in terms of accuracy. There are a number of ethical and regulatory issues with animal tests, and they are very time consuming, both in terms of the test itself, but also in applying for ethical committee and these type of permits to perform the test. We have a first generation in vitro test. They often build on one single biomarker. You can do a qualitative potency or risk assessment, and they are often combined in approaches. The GARD platform reaches 90 to 95% accuracy because we have 200 genes in our signature. So we are measuring a very broad spectrum in the allergen space. That's why also customers are interested in the GARD platform, because of the accuracy across the applicability domain, so for many different types of substances. It's also possible to make a quantitative risk assessment, as I alluded to earlier with the test. And as you can see, the broad applicability and accuracy also plays a major role in that GARD can assess difficult to test substances or challenging substances. For instance, metal salts, compounds of variable and unknown mixture, complex mixtures, surfactants. These are substances which are difficult to address in other tests, but we can do it in GARD. So that's the GARD platform. That is where our starting position. It has built us a good foundation and a growing customer portfolio. In addition to GARD, we're going to expand with our CRO test portfolio. So currently, we've already launched the irritation and corrosion test, and we also launched an irritation test for medical devices. Going forward, we're going to launch a complete medical device biocompatibility testing kit. We want to do that before the end of this year. In addition, there is a number of sort of related test items in terms of using cell-based testing in phototoxicity and cytotoxicity. These are also endpoints that clients test for when they are testing for allergens. So it's very natural that we offer these tests, so that is in our pipeline. The other tests, there are very exciting developments going on in, for instance, genotoxicity or organ toxicity. These are areas where there is new technology deployed. We think it's very interesting, and we can see that that's a path where we will direct our acquisition activities. So we've started our commercial journey. We have every half year we have more new customers than we had the half year before. Plus, we have an increased customer retention, so we have more and more customers returning. This is creating what I call a snowball effect, and now we want to see that snowball getting larger and larger. So we also see a substantial increase in customer inquiries recently. We have, based on the feedback, expanded our test offering, as I told you about earlier, and then we have widened our distribution capacity with an agreement with Enthalpy in US. We have expanded our agreement with Charles River, one of the largest CROs in the world. We did a very high-profile project with American Research Institute for Fragrance Materials, or RIFM, where we have tested fragrance materials on GARD. And RIFM has 70 membership companies, so this is an excellent opportunity for us to present our capabilities in the space to them. Just so you get a little bit of a feel for what type of customers we have, we're working with medium to large size leading companies in the cosmetics, medical device, chemical and pharmaceutical space. And we've had scientific presentations with Essity, a Swedish health tech and consumer product company with 114 billion Swedish kronor of sales. We worked with Sonova, which is a Swiss medical device company with 2.6 billion Swiss franc in revenues. And we worked with Corteva and also did scientific presentations with Corteva. Corteva is one of the absolute leading agrochemical companies in the world, previously also known as DuPont. So these are the types of customers that we're working with. We're very pleased with seeing a good growth of our and expanding customer base. I want to go into the toxicology testing market, and this is, as I said, a very interesting market. It is growing with between 5 and 10%. We're estimating value of, it's estimated that it will be worth nearly $9 billion 2023. And we are already operating in the fastest growing segment, which is skin sensitization, corrosion and irritation testing. It is estimated to be worth $550 million by 2023, and it's growing by 9.5% per year. As I mentioned earlier, we see an opportunity to expand our offering in cytotoxicity and phototoxicity because they are cell-based assays, and they are also related to testing in the skin allergen space. So this is what we're targeting with our organic growth strategy, and the other sectors of this industry, which are also very interesting, is what we want to address with acquisition growth. And all sectors, chemical, pharmaceutical, medical device and cosmetics, have similar needs around toxicity testing, which makes this a very interesting market. The market growth is driven by several factors which are all sort of working in the same direction, and that is to reduce and replace animal testing. First, it's the regulatory environment, where we have the cosmetics ban in Europe. We also had a resolution by the EU Parliament 3 weeks ago, where they issued a recommendation or resolution to the member states to accelerate the switch from animal testing to in vitro testing. Ethical considerations, we have the corporate world is taking a larger social responsibility and have goals set in reducing their animal testing. And then we have scientific, so the tests that are on the market are not always good enough, so there is a need for more accurate tests, more human relevance in the tests. And then there is a need for more economic testing as well, so tests that are quicker to perform and tests that are less costly to implement. That was my last slide, so thank you very much for listening to me, and I welcome any questions from you.
Yes, well, they're coming right up. Like you mentioned here, you took over as CEO in August. If you were to describe SenzaGen's potential, how would you do that?
Well, I think SenzaGen, with the market-leading technology that we have an opportunity to become a leader in the in vitro toxicology space for animal-free testing, and that's our goal to do with both organic growth and acquisitions.
And you talked about the new strategy, but just to summarize it a little bit, how does that differ from the strategy you presented in 2019?
So we've developed a strategy and made a higher emphasis on growth, or even higher emphasis on growth. So we had a great organic growth strategy, but we have built that out with offering a number of additional tests. And now we've also added acquisition growth. So it's a more growth-oriented strategy.
And finally then, in the short term, what are the most important milestones for SenzaGen?
Yeah, we're working on several fronts, but short term I would like us to grow a little bit faster than we've done before, even faster. I'd like us to implement a number of these new tests that we've had in the pipeline. We should be working and seeing this OECD test guideline status in the near term. It's a very near-term priority for us. And finally, we have an active acquisition pipeline, so I hope that we can bring something to close also in the near term.
Well, we look forward to hearing about that.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.